I guess let's get started with our board and 3 people.
Four.
Yeah, should we just start with a quick introduction of everyone, just so we all know who we are? And so you want to start, Joe?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Joe Salemi, the Deputy Executive Director with Landscape Ontario.
I'm Tony DiGiovanni. I'm the Executive Director of Landscape Ontario. Been working for you guys for over 31 years.
Oh.
Norm?
Norm Mills. I'm the past president, working with Cobus Nurseries in Bowmanville.
Carol?
Carol Fulford with Pristine Property Maintenance. I am your social coordinator, your secretary treasurer, and any other job that gets tossed at me.
Very true. Rebecca?
I am Rebecca Carpenter, and I am considered the student director. I think that was what I was given.
We still got to get the cards printed, but yes.
Okay.
And Chris?
So I'm Chris Mueller from OJ Mueller Landscape Contracting out of Pickering. I'm the general manager there, and I also serve as the provincial rep for the Durham chapter board of LO.
And Nancy?
I'm Nancy Green, Green Art Landscape Design out of West Hill.
It's funny, I joke with Nancy because there's a lot of East Scarborough people that are Durham people at heart, because none of us want to go to Humber College for meetings.
No, I don't want to go.
Doesn't make any sense.
I like going east. It's so much easier.
Less traffic. Joanne?
Joanne Shaw, Down to Earth Landscape Design. I live in Pickering, so I do a lot of designs in pretty much Durham region.
And Janice?
Janice Shingler, executive member, and work at Oxbridge Nurseries.
Scott?
Scott Lloyd, Landscape Contracting. I'm the owner, and I'm the member of the executive board. You
can always tell when people live in the boonies.
He's that much further east.
Yeah.
The joy of Wi-Fi out in north of Bowmanville. And Claudia?
It's pretty bad.
Claudia Bond from BK Bond Landscape. We live in Ajax. Members of Landscape Ontario.
Sounds good. I think I don't see any other faces.
Nope, that's all.
That's everyone. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. My name is John Egg. I'm the owner of Pristine Property Maintenance out of Ajax, and I'm also the president of the Durham chapter, and I sit on the Snow and Ice Committee and on the provincial board as well as the Snow and Ice rep. I live in East Scarborough, so I like to pay less taxes. But yeah, our business is based in Ajax, and we work across the GTA. So this is our first experiment at a virtual meeting, and hopefully, next time, I'm assuming these will be the way of the future for quite some time, to be very honest with you. So hopefully, we'll be able to attract a few more people next time and really get some good discussions going. But I hope you all saw the agenda for tonight, where we are basically going to discuss just a few of the things that have obviously happened over the last few months with our new world of adherence to PPE and improved sanitation, and how how that's affecting all the different businesses in the landscape industry, from nurseries to guys going out in trucks with coworkers and on the job site, and all those weird things that have happened now with, where do you even, go to the toilet anymore when the Tim Hortons and McDonald's were closed for so long, and just all those kind of, new normals for all of us now that we're out in this manner. So I believe we had designated Chris was going to take the lead on, am I right? It was Chris?
Yeah.
Good. So
we'd agreed to anyways. So
I should have taken notes on our exec meeting because I forgot.
Yeah.
I think Scott's
in our first go at an online meeting, when we sort of went over the procedure here. I'm wondering if maybe the best thing is I just kind of walk you through what we did as a business to to sort of go through at first acquiring additional PPE, understanding what we needed. and then sort of what the uptake was with our employees, how we enforced it, and then I'll sort of touch on some of the other issues like the bathroom issue and what we did to try and accommodate that. And I think part of this too is now that we have sort of the luxury of being able to look back at how this happened, we're able to prepare now for the second wave and get a feel for how we could maybe improve or do things a little bit better in the second time around. So right off the bat, we knew face masks were going to be incredibly important. And so what we ended up doing was we connected with a veterinary supply because initially these things were almost impossible to come by. And so we were buying, it was a 3-ply cotton mask. This was the first thing we bought because it's all trial and error when you're figuring these things out. And the first thing we bought, it came in a variety of colors, and all the colors looked like classic baby blue men's underwear. In a variety of teal and purple and all this.
Oh, perfect.
So we spent about a week wearing those, and they were hot and they were really uncomfortable. It had white trim around. I should have brought one with me. I feel terrible now. But white trim around the outside. Every seam was highlighted with white. Yeah, like you couldn't draw it up better. This was classic men's underwear. And so we all walked around with that for a week and well, this isn't going to work. And you know, you're trying to talk to a client with a pair of underwear on your face. So, we sort of adopted the surgical masks right off the hop. Again, we have, you know, my mom's a nurse, and so we were able to find a supplier through the healthcare sector. So
find a supplier.
Yeah. Okay, so John understands. Yeah, we kept costs low. Let's put it that way. But there was greater uptake, so the guys were wearing them more frequently. We didn't have to kind of enforce it in the same way. A lot of guys were bringing some from home, and so we were at least comfortable sort of working in that environment. After about, I'd say, the first 2 weeks, largely the way our business works is there's really only one guy on site who's talking to the client at any one particular time. More often than not, that's me. So I would have to have a steady supply of these things. Here's where we admit our failures a little bit. I think our guys believed we were in a bit of a bubble, and whether we were actually in a bubble by sort of the technical definition or by the medical definition of a bubble, we were seeing the same people every day. We weren't traveling outside of work. The only exposure we had to people that were not our colleagues were our spouses. And so as a group, we became very comfortable working beside each other without using the PPE. But when we got into a circumstance, say we were working at a condo or working at any sort of facility or place that wasn't just a private residence in a backyard where there's not a lot of eyes on you, we were still very good about putting masks on. Whenever we went to go get coffee or, you know, when anywhere in public, we always had a mask. Whenever we sort of came back to, if you can see the company logo and somebody's seeing it for the first time, they better see you with a mask on. And I think that, and I think that really resonated with the guys. And we're a small company. We're down to 6 employees right now, which is its own challenge. So for us, our reputation is really important to us, and the way we're perceived, not just by our clients, but our sort of fellow industry professionals, was a huge issue to us. And we wanted to make sure that we were doing things the right way. So that's what we did, at least publicly facing. When we were working on the farm or in the yard, it got a little more lax. I think we're reevaluating that now with the numbers jumping the way they are. But we were at least able to find sort of a PPE solution. Albeit, again, John, I can appreciate our scale is a lot different than yours in the way you have to supply your employees. So I am cognizant and grateful for that, I think. That's sort of what worked for us. We did provide the guys with hand sanitizer right off the bat. One of the breweries, All or Nothing Brew House in Oshawa, was producing hand sanitizer. You know, funny how a guy just stumbles into a brewery and finds hand sanitizer. So we were able to at least source that. The guys have been really good about sanitizing tools and trucks and themselves. A lot of us are married, so we're sort of getting it from home too. Go to work, be safe, make sure you're taking care of everybody, because I don't want to get it from you. So when at least the wife or the spouse or whoever it is sort of after you about it, you're getting it from both sides. And I think that really played to our advantage. So the guys were very clean that way. For the first month and a half of the year, so probably from April to the end of May, we had an old trailer kicking around in the yard, and we retrofitted it, and it was my privilege to drive around our giant green or orange pylon, which was our portable washroom. You have 2 giant straps attached to it and a bunch of screws through the bottom into a couple of pieces of 2x4, and that was our way of at least providing a clean space for our employees to use the washroom. And it was a flush toilet inside with a hand washing station, so we were able to secure that at least off the top. We're looking moving forward, maybe not this year because they're not available, but at buying sort of a more enclosed trailer unit that has free-flowing water in it. So however that reservoir is going to work. And it'll just be part of our policy or part of our procedure that if we're going somewhere where a washroom is not readily available, they'll just have to tow this thing, one of the guys or me or whoever it's going to be. And that's just our way of kind of making sure that we can at least keep our theoretical bubble enclosed, so that at least we know we held each other accountable, so that we were staying safe and clean and doing everything we could to protect each other. And I think at least for us, because we are a small business, and there's only so many of us, 6 employees and 3 of them are related. So at least it was easy for us to justify that effort in trying to keep people safe. And we extended that to the general public. We didn't let anybody else use our washroom. We would lock it when we weren't using it, and unlock it when somebody needed it. And that to us was the best we could do. And the MOL never pulled us over. Nobody ever told us that was wrong or we can't do this. So at least moving forward, we think we've got some procedures in place and some policies that our employees helped develop. And that was important to me too, that it wasn't just coming from management, that it came sort of from feedback, and it was sort of a very dynamic process that we were able to come up with these things. So I think having gone through the first wave of this, we're well equipped now to go into the second wave. I'm a little worried about how this is going to peel back what our business is able to do. But ultimately, we have to keep our people and our families safe. We're a family business, and ultimately the health and safety of our fellow employees and their families is always going to be priority number 1. So that's how we approach it. That's what we did. Maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, but it's what we did. So I'm sure John's going to have a different experience with his guys and uptake. I know the first time they came to cut the grass at the farm, they were all in masks and they were all very good about it. And the second time they kind of saw what we were doing and adopted our policy pretty quickly. So I'm not critical in any way. If I was working for you, I would have done exactly the same thing.
Actually, let me ask more questions there, because you, to be very honest with you, know more than I do about what's happening on site. So you said the first time you saw them this would be, mid-May type thing?
Yeah, mid-May, I guess. Yeah, first cut. Yeah.
And sorry, just so you know, Chris is a very lazy fellow, and we cut his grass for him. No, he's smart. He's like, why would I buy a lawnmower? I could just have you do it for less than it costs you to have a lawnmower over 10 years.
Well, John gave me a bit of a sweetheart deal, so let's put it on that way too.
But yeah, so the first time you saw a crew, they were, looking proper, and then it kind of got a little bit more lazy as the season went on, in a sense.
Yeah, in the interest of telling the truth and nothing but the truth, yes. Yeah.
That's human.
You can't offend me, so don't worry. And I think that's kind of, I think, part of the problem is we've all been like that. I'm a huge hypocrite myself, because I think we all started in May, with the best of intentions, and I kid you not, I probably spent close to $5,000 on masks and gloves and sanitizer, and we bought something that you can spray in the trucks, and it's supposed to, half the stuff feels like it was a scam looking back on it, because a lot of people taking advantage of the situation. And even Mark & Moore started selling me sanitizer. I'm like, what the heck is Mark & Moore doing selling me sanitizer? But and it was like water. So the guys went through it way too quickly. But I think that's that's part of the problem. Like we said, is we all started with best intentions. And then, you didn't get sick. So all of a sudden, oh, I guess we're okay. And you become more and more, lackadaisical with it. And then all of a sudden, here we are in September, and, we all are basically very confident that a second wave will be, it's basically happening as we speak. The number went down to, I believe, 250 today, but being over 300 yesterday, and schools haven't even fully in the TDSB come back. It won't take long, and I can't imagine they're not going to be shut down again fairly soon. And it is kind of scary to think that, okay, what is the next step. So I'm really glad to hear about what your company was doing, and I don't think that's necessarily an option for every company. The having the porta potty on site only for your staff and stuff, and especially for crews that are moving, like grass cutting crews, or crews that are only a day here and a day there. It would be very cost prohibitive to have that type of setup. Are any other companies here that would like to speak about kind of how they were dealing with PP issues during that time? During this time?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
First? That's okay. So Chris, what did you do in terms of traveling to job sites?
So this is where we admit our fault as a company. We have way too many vehicles relative to number of employees. So we were largely able to isolate employees to one employee per vehicle.
Right.
And we took on a few students this year. Anyways, when they were traveling as the passenger, we looked at the driver of each truck was responsible for the sanitation of that truck. So when the employee jumped in to go to the job site or whatever it was, the expectation was that passenger had to wear a mask inside the vehicle. And to their credit, they were really good about it. They knew, at least, all I got to do is wear my mask. I don't have to clean it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that was at least sort of the golden ticket for them. It sort of alleviated some of the responsibility, and most of these students hop in the truck and fall asleep anyways. So they don't really care. Like, okay, so now I take a nap with a mask on. Okay, great. Like, slows down my breathing and I fall asleep faster. So to them, I don't think it made much of a challenge. But we were fortunate. Again, we had 3 students. Like, we're not talking big numbers, but we were fortunate. They were very good about that.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to share any of their experiences with PP issues, or any brilliant ideas that they had over the last few months? Claudia.
We were paying our employees to drive their personal vehicles to site per kilometer. We have some people who would not go in another truck with anybody. We also had people who would share trucks and feel comfortable with that. So whoever felt they could share, we let them share. And anyone who would not share, we didn't argue.
Did you find, though, people were trying to take advantage of that in some ways, though? Like, they almost were driving their vehicle because, oh, you're going to pay me, more than that.
Maybe. Yeah.
How
can't
hard
argue.
do you want to press that? Yeah.
You can't.
You can't argue.
Yeah.
You can't argue.
We did the same thing. So yeah, it definitely, when you have people that have that ability, yeah, it was just easier for the sake of, some of my maintenance crews are 6 people in a truck. So right off the bat, it was, okay, how can we get that down to at least, 4 people at the worst? But then, you'd hear some companies talking about installing plexiglass somehow to divide up it got to the point of, almost just being impossible to manage. And then you were criminalized if you weren't doing that. But at the same time,
but when Durham opened up to phase 3, we said, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
You can go in a truck with a face mask and it's safe. Everyone else is doing that. And that was kind of our mandate. What the government was saying when Durham was open to phase 3, we kind of said, okay, it's fine. And there was one guy who still refused to drive his own car, and we stopped paying him at that time. So,
and he kept driving his own car.
Yeah, but actually he's sharing cars, he's sharing trucks now. And he has a family situation with 3 kids who are all over the place. They're teenagers and whatever. So every family situation is different. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, for sure.
And respectful at this time. You can't argue with people. That's what we're finding. But our trucks are clean. They're sanitized. It's awesome. Like
cleaner than they've ever been, probably.
Yeah, that is one bonus. All the trucks are definitely clean.
Yeah. And we've been spending a lot of money on porta potties at each site.
But you guys often did that in the past, though, right? I feel like I've seen.
Not as much. We would have clients who would be quite willing. Oh, we'll leave the back door open. You know, you can go in. A lot of our clients would leave the back door open and wouldn't mind us using their back door, but not anymore. So it's porta potties. We as soon as we start a site, we order a porta potty. Yeah.
I feel like that's a business that's probably skyrocketed over the last months.
It's expensive.
Zoom and porta potties. We should have invested.
Yeah. Oh, well. We bought at the beginning of the season these buffs from Balsam Promotions, thinking it would be a thing that you could pull up quickly and pull down. I think that lasted a week.
Yeah, I saw TCG and Reliable Care and a few other companies bought. And it was almost like a marketing thing. They were all branded. But I don't think they're as effective as a mask.
I think all our staff are really comfortable working with each other now, and we're outside. Masks are not coming out unless they're inside a building. Then we supply masks for them. But outside at a site, no masks.
No, I agree. And so yeah, just for what my company was doing, like we started off, like I said, with the best of intentions in May, and I was getting on people if we were driving by them and saw that they weren't wearing their masks while they were driving. That was kind of the the mandatory, like you have to wear it while you're in the truck. And I think after a month of beating my head against the wall, we kind of
we keep the same people in the same trucks. There's consistency.
Yeah, and that's how I would think most companies are. Like you're literally,
that's what we do.
9 times out of 10 always working with the same people.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely would there be that cross contamination in a sense. But at the same time, we start with the best policies, and you're trying to do everything right, and then human nature takes over. And we have enough battles this summer based on business and just all the stress of COVID in general. Do you really want to spend your life yelling at employees to wear their masks? And I think like Chris said, like we probably gave up at some point in June once we had 2 Ministry of Labor calls in May and basically never heard a peep after that.
Sorry, just to touch on that, John, like the ministry, were you ever contacted? Did they ever want to do like a surprise inspection or anything like that?
No inspection. So what the first call was, this, I don't know if you remember the dates, Carol, better than I do, but so the first call was basically, an anonymous complaint has been put in that your crews aren't social distancing. And I said, okay, which crew? We don't know. Where was it? We don't know.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me anything? No, we just have a complaint about your company. Okay. And so that was a pretty in and out one. That was just a 10-minute phone call, a warning to you type thing. And that was that. The next one was I apologize. That was an elevator inspector. So what happened at the beginning of COVID is the TSSA inspectors all were laid off and became temporary Ministry of Labor inspectors because they were basically doing a huge hiring. It was some sort of on loan type thing.
Yeah.
So she didn't really care. She was more complaining about having to drive. I think she told me she had to drive the day before up to like North Bay to check out a Subway restaurant to make sure it had the proper signage. So that was a weird comment from a Ministry of Labor inspector, but
well, I mean, sitting in a car for 3.5 hours listening to the radio is a tough way to make money, right? So,
very much so.
Yeah.
The first call, John, was May the 11th, so it was really into the start of the season.
Yeah. So literally at that point, we would have been only back to work full time for a week. So, and then the second call was probably a week or two after that.
Yeah, I don't have anything on that one.
Yeah. So that was an actual Ministry of Labor inspector. We had dealt with him years before when a garage door fell on someone. Long story. So I remembered him, Douglas, in his Mini Cooper, gigantic fellow in a Mini Cooper. So it's hard to forget that. So this guy, because he was actually a Ministry of Labor inspector, was extremely by the book. And basically for about an hour and a half, went through everything with me on the phone, asked me every question. We went through training records, we went through everything. And at the end of it said, okay, yeah. And I said, okay, like that's it? He's like, yeah, we don't really enforce anything. We just want to make sure you're doing everything properly. Okay, that was an hour and a half for that. Okay, no worries, sir. Thank you.
Wow. And you're sitting there shaking like a leaf, like, what am I going to say that he's going to come after me for? Like,
yeah, and I'm thinking, he's going to like be fining us or something but at the end of the day, it's all anonymous. Like, there's no proof of anything. There's just some, busybody saw a truck, and the truth is, the guys were probably in the wrong, but this is where I have the issue of what is the employer's responsibility when you've done everything you can do except fire people. I can't fire them because I need them to cut grass. So it's that issue there. But so yeah, we did everything we felt we could do, and then obviously, as people are working, like you guys said, in their own bubble, it's the same people every day, day in, day out. Very little interaction with the office, very little interaction with the shop, very little interaction with customers. That's been the one blessing of COVID, is you don't have the crazy people coming out and yelling at you as much because they're afraid of you. So it's we gotta appreciate the few blessings. But yeah, so we kind of carried on. We spent the money we spent. I'm sure a lot of our hand sanitizer ended up in people's homes, and the masks live on people's necks, very rarely on their faces. But we did buy personalized masks. One of our employees' mums made them for us for $5 each, and that seemed like a better investment than the $100 a day we were spending on the disposable ones. So went down that path, and I still see, like, a lot of the guys, like, I'll see them tomorrow wearing a mask around their neck. So I think it's there. They know, obviously, when they're walking into a gas station or anything, they're going to pop it up. I did get a few calls from, if one of my guys walked into a gas station without their mask on, they're calling the number on the side of the truck. So there were a few of those type of situations, which are just frustrating and people just being stupid. But at the end of the day, employees do what they do sometimes, and you do your best to rectify that. And after someone's yelling at you in a gas station, I'm hoping you learn to put your darn mask on.
Well, they are the face of your company,
very much so,
in the public, and you do need to obviously make them cognizant of that. But if they're not wearing, if there's a particular person who's constantly forgetting, let's be polite about it, and they are constantly getting that, that's like any other breaking of any other rule, except you're dealing with a disease.
Did a question to everyone then? Did anyone, fire an employee over non-compliance issues?
I don't believe I've heard of anybody fired for it, but the only reason for that, in honesty, is because trying to replace anybody is impossible.
Yeah.
And we can all agree on that. Lack of labor or lack of people who are willing to work has been the same problem since I first started in the industry in 1969. It's been perpetual, and it's not going to change no matter what we do. It's just a something of the industry.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is the nature of the beast, as they
Yes,
say.
it is. I'd like to chime in on what we've done, if I may.
For sure.
We had 4 minimum, I know of 4, possibly more, surprise visits from the MOL, because of course we have migrant workers, and they have to be kept very safe because of all the goings on that happened down in Leamington. So the MOL is poking the finger at farms that have migrants. And they give us 24 hours notice and saying, hi, we're coming in tomorrow for a surprise inspection, which is a little oxymoronic, but that's okay. The first one was really slick. And I think some of you I've already told. The first thing the guy did when he got out of his car was stuck his hand out and tried to shake Anna's hand. And this is an official government person in an official government vehicle, Ontario Ministry of Labor. And she didn't have any of that. She said, buddy, you're trying to trap me. And that's how the day started. And he sat in his car for most of the day, just watching what was going on. We have about 24, maybe 28, somewhere in that. Migrant workers. I like the way Carl calls them guest employees, but they don't like me calling them at work. So our guest employees live in 3 houses, and each of the houses are allocated to a section of our farm. So one house, the gang that live there, work at a sales yard. One gang work elsewhere. One gang works somewhere else again. And virtually there's no interaction between any of them. So they're basically a family bubble, if you will. We only ever have one person in a truck when our truck goes on the road because, of course, we're delivering, we're not working. I don't know what the people do who do deliver. I presume I know they all have masks and PPE in the vehicles. Whether they put them on or not, they've been told enough, and they all know that they are the face of our company. And there's a lot of times you cannot be more than 6 feet away when you're unloading a van. We have customers that come into our yard. We don't go to them at all. So it's not uncommon for me to turn around and say, buddy, get out of my 6 feet. If he's not got a mask or she's not got a mask, I say, come on, 6 feet. And they go, it's almost always, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. And of course, the same one forgets every 4 days when they come in. But what do you do? We all have our own masks. We have the disposables available for those who want. We all have our own personal masks. I'm running with the same couple that I got when we first had the whole thing come down. And I wear it twice a day when I'm near somebody close. But for us, it's not complicated to stay away from people. And on 26 acres, I can hide from people quite well. Although I'm not allowed to.
You try though.
Yeah.
Norm, has any of the guest workers contracted COVID?
Not at all. Not at all. We've had, to my knowledge, 2 guys go to the doctors since any of them came back in April. Oh yeah, we had a great start because they weren't allowed to leave Mexico because they had their own COVID down there. They weren't able to, if I remember correctly, they were not allowed to leave Mexico till something like the 30th of April. So they're already a month behind. And then when they got here, they had to be in jail for 2 weeks in their house. And so basically, our guys, instead of starting on the 1st of April, like they have done for the last forever, they got to start the 15th of May. So we were already months behind because we were open from the get-go because the Premier called us, since we're farmers, we're an essential service. Same as the carrot growers.
Do you have any policy for testing?
For testing?
Yeah.
Durham region came through and tested every single guest employee. I believe
Not every employee.
We were all tested at Uxbridge.
The Canadians were offered for testing. They asked me.
It wasn't mandatory.
Interesting.
It wasn't mandatory.
No, it was mandatory for the guest employees. For the Canadians, it was optional. I said, yeah, I'd love to. I can't think of anything better than having some that long stuck up my nose. But it happened on a Saturday, and I'm old. I only work Monday to Thursday, and that's because I want to play at home with my wife and my airplane. And so therefore, when it happened on a Saturday, they forgot to tell me, and I didn't get tested. But I don't know any of our Canadian people who were actually tested, but every guest employee has been tested, to my knowledge, 3 times, possibly more. And they've all passed.
Did anyone have any positive cases in their company?
No.
I think we might have had one, but I don't think it was ever confirmed. It was early on, and I think he was sick for a bit, and I don't think he actually got tested. But
I think we had one, but it was in February before the testing had even started.
well, that's the weird thing too.
All of her symptoms, I swear it was, definitely.
And I have 2 friends. One that I saw in January, and I talked to him in March. And he said, "Hey, did you get really sick after you saw me in January?" "No, I was fine." And he swears now that he had COVID in January. And then another person I know that swears they had it in January as well. But yeah, it was something across the sea at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Of course, the new scam that's coming on now is, oh, I've got a cough. I got to go home for 2 weeks.
yeah. And we're going to see that. That's the,
Of course you are. Of course you are. And you already know in advance who's going to do it.
Well, and I feel bad for people with allergies, because they're going to be like, "No, it's just allergies. I'm fine." And they're going to get ostracized.
Yeah, that would be me.
That's right. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's Claritin season. It's all good.
So any other PPE discussion, guys, or should we move into just kind of any of the government programs that are available? Okay, so obviously it's been an interesting year for the government being nicer to us than normal. I think we're all used to paying lots of taxes, and this has been an odd one to get the. Sorry, I got a stupid speaker. But I think this has definitely been a weird year for that, and so the 40 grand that was available early on for companies that were applicable for it. Obviously, it's hard, I think, for most people not to say yes to a free 10 grand in money. I believe the rule is you just have to pay it back at I think it's sometime in 2021 to not have to pay the full 40 grand. So that definitely it seems silly not to go for it if your company was applicable for it. And then obviously the issue we had with the CERB, a lot of employees obviously said, well, wait a second, I can work really hard for 3 grand a month, or I can do nothing for 2 grand a month. And we had probably about 5 employees that chose to stay home, and then I magically would see them driving around in their personal pickups with interlocking in the back of it. So it's funny how that works, but this is life. Then the wage subsidy for my company, for instance, the wage subsidy has been a huge blessing. We did take a bit of a hit on our extras. So about half of our business is contract work, grass cutting, snow plowing, all that stuff, and then about half of it is one-time only jobs. So interlocking, fences and decks, tree work, handyman services, all that type of stuff. So obviously that work completely dried up in April and May. Lots of uncertainty, and even in May, when things were starting to, in theory, get back to normal, you still didn't see a lot of work happening. A lot of people had no clue what was actually going to happen, and I think we're just kind of holding on to their purse strings. Then the opposite happened, in June and July and August. The amount of work, I think, talking to other companies, and for my company, it's been overwhelming. I could have 10 more qualified for people right now and be making a lot of money, because the jobs that they're just waiting to get done. We're booking into 2021 at this point. If you're a pool company, you're probably, some of them are booking into 2022 now, because this is the year where everyone says, well, I might as well get a pool. Or I talked to a hot tub guy recently, and he said, if you put a deposit down on a hot tub right now, you're going to be getting it in September of 2021. So just lots of oddities happening in our world in that sense. But as far as the government programs go, did a lot of you guys look into that, and was it something that benefited your company? Was actually not worth the paperwork? I know with the rent subsidy, a lot of people said it kind of wasn't worth the hassle of going through that, trying to prove the loss of income, getting questioned on it. So there are those factors. But does anyone want to speak to any programs that they were familiar with and used in their own companies? Scott?
Oh no, I was just saying I didn't apply for any of them because we weren't at that 30% margin in the spring.
So everything, in all honesty, was there was a lot more blessings than negatives for you with the way the summer went.
Yeah. Like I mean, our pricing went up in the spring, so and then we were running around the same amount of people, so we kind of already knew. We didn't even try.
Yeah, fair enough. Claudia, were you going to say something?
Yeah, we had in last year, the best year ever. We did a lot of major jobs with Coghlan Homes in Deer Creek. When COVID hit, we had shut down, a lot of cancellations, so we had a lot less sales. So we took advantage of the emergency wage subsidy.
Yeah,
because our sales were way lower. We're finding it's costing us a lot more to do business now, and finding supplies is really difficult. So we're still down in sales.
Everyone's head shakes there.
Yeah, we've been buying stone from all over the place, trying to find supplies. So that's costing us a lot more too. But we're chugging along. Yeah.
Did you like Scott though find that okay, this is an opportunity to increase my margin slightly to help compensate for the extra costs associated with doing business?
No.
Yeah, no, not really. We couldn't really do that. I don't think. Maybe for next year if the prices do go up that much more consistently. But I mean, we just kind of tried to stay as organized as possible and kept the stock in the yard. Being a month and a half out with most of the projects, it gave us enough time to kind of book product ahead of time. So we have 20 or 25 bundles of brick in the yard, but
and hopefully it all gets laid by the time snow flies.
Oh yeah, no, it's all spoken for and paid for basically by deposits, but hopefully it's not.
I think 2020 is the year of the deposit because I for my company we never really worried that much about deposits in the past, and it was one of those things. Yeah, just pay when the job's done, no big deal. And now it's like, well, when you're telling someone you're talking to them in June and you might not get to them in August, you kind of want to know that they're there for you in August, and I think that's a huge thing with deposits that really helps give you that certainty. It's not even about covering the material costs. Like at the end of the day, most of the time you're able to still get the material in that 30-day period. So it's not that you're out of pocket anything, but just that security, knowing that that customer is still going to be there is a huge factor, I think. As far as any other government programs go, I'm curious what we'll see change over the next few months. The wage subsidy did change a little bit for August into September. I believe it's going to be at this point they're saying it's going to be done as of at the end of October. But who knows if that will change as well. If a second wave happens and the government says, crud, we need to start doing some changes for other industries, but then we, in a sense, are part of that bandwagon. I feel terrible, but it's blessings in disguises in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had sort of like the perfect storm this spring. We often work for the same client, multiple properties, or we've done the first home, the second home, and now we're doing the third home kind of thing. And so a lot of these clients, the projects are $100,000, $200,000 construction projects. And so we, on reputation, on existing relationships, don't ask for a deposit. So when you're not asking for a deposit on $150,000, that's a big leap of faith. And so we got burned on a couple of those this spring, and for valid reasons. These are 75-year-old couple were terrified of this virus and said, we're moving to the country. Like, we're not, we're not going to do any work on the house. We're moving to the cottage. We'll let you know when we're back. And
No
it was
kidding.
like, okay, well, there's our first, 4 weeks of the year up in smoke, like overnight. So we took the loan right off the hop. Of course, we timed things out wonderfully. We bought a brand new float trailer, and it sat in the yard at Jensen for about 4 months because we couldn't bite the bullet and give them the money, and so we would trickle a little bit in, just hold it for us, hold it for us, hold it for us, and of course it was killing us because this is not the way we do things, and I think that was part of the hardest part of it, is that we had to make business decisions based on the current climate, not the way we like to do things, and not the way we've sort of historically done things, and that was challenging. And even sort of now into the last couple of months, I don't run the books. I do a lot of the estimating and the invoicing and that, but we do have an administrator that does a lot of that for us. And we've had to schedule our invoicing to make it line up with that percent decrease in revenue.
Yeah.
And so even little things like that, which are perfectly legitimate and very legal, but just the idea that, we finish the job, we send the invoice. That's our policy. That's just the way we do things. And so now we have to make these sort of unfortunate business decisions that are in the best interest of the business, but that we don't sort of philosophically believe in. And so manipulating the numbers in a certain way, and this is why we'll always be terrible business people, is because we sort of let our heart guide these business decisions. And so it's been terrible. We've sort of held off billing and sort of on good faith with people. And now that the wage subsidy is not as good as it was, we're looking at it like, no, it's time to invoice, and that's it. And we put out, I think, an ungodly number of invoicing just in the last few weeks here. And like we've sort of survived at least till this point, but now it's sort of like, okay, we've gotten rid of our students, we've kept our core people, and now it's time to just sort of reap the benefit of the spring that we haven't billed for yet, and just carry us into the winter. But it's been very challenging that way. But without the wage subsidy, there's no business. I mean, I'm sure we were all so tough for finding that sort of fluidity just to purchase materials and cover payroll. Without that wage subsidy and the immediacy of it, I think we all would have been in a really different spot.
Oh, I've said this the executive meeting, like the wage subsidy has been a huge godsend for my business for a variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, like, I was joking last exec meeting, like you open that mail and you look at that check, you're like, huh, that was really quick for the government. Like, we all like to joke that the government's so inefficient and, all the issues there. And then literally I can go on the website right now, pop in some numbers, and within, I think the quickest I had it was probably within like 8 days. Open that envelope in the mail and for, I have 160 employees. It's a big check. It's one of those situations that you're like, whoa, this came right before payroll and is very helpful, because the other side effect of COVID is checks are not coming as they should be. We had issues where board of directors were saying, leave the envelope in my mailbox, and in 3 days I'll pull it out of my mailbox and then I'll sign it, and then you can come and collect it in 3 days to their property managers, and like weird little delays like that you would never have foreseen. But because everyone, was in panic mode in, June and July, that might mean I don't get my net 30 for another 20 or 30 days on top of that. So cash flow was a huge concern over COVID. And it's always an issue. Cash flow is one of the biggest hindrances in business, I find. But that was an extra one where it's like people are refusing to sign checks. I was very optimistic at the beginning of COVID that we would see a huge shift to EFTs. And that's not really happening either. People still like to sign checks, even though they just don't want to sign them right away. They want to let the COVID leave the check over 3 days. So, definitely, things that you think are logical and would make sense to happen and change aren't changing. People are still stuck in their old ways. But I am still hopeful that, especially too, if there is a second wave, that we'll start to see a lot of the improvements. I hear the court systems are starting to do more online stuff. You know, there are other things that are happening in our world that hopefully will make all of our lives easier over time, because restrictions will ease, and the ability to, you know, have a Zoom call and do it like this, which is just as effective in some ways as face-to-face, you know, can happen and will happen. So we shall see. Scott, do you want to take on our last topic?
Sure. What was it again?
Production in a pandemic.
Maintain production. Yeah, I think it just kind of goes back to what me and Claudia were kind of talking about with you know, staying kind of ahead of the game a little bit. You know, making sure you talk to your clients as early as possible, figure out all the details with them as early as possible, making sure they know what product they want to use, and getting those samples to them as early as you can, just so you can start organizing the material. We have a client right now that we originally started talking to, I want to say probably back in June, and she finally gave us a signature beginning of August, and it took her till maybe 2 weeks ago to pick her material. So we're hoping that by the time we get there in about a month, we'll have the material that she picked. I mean, it's and then even with some of our subcontractors, because we've got into quite a bit of subcontracting this year. We had a window and door guy doing some stuff, and he originally said the beginning of July that he could get material, and it didn't come till last week. So it's been it's definitely been a little trying, even depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm
No, for sure. And it's funny. I was very, very aware from my fencing and decking division of the issues with getting a 2x4, like anything pressure treated. It was like it was you know, Black Friday at Home Depot, because you know, if you weren't there at 6 a.m. to get that lift, you weren't getting it. You know, the amount of people waiting in line to try to buy wood was pretty intense at some points. But I just talking to you and my interlocking guys last week, I had no idea of the backlog on interlocking. I spoke to a supplier the other day who said there was a 78,000 backlog on one of his most popular, 78,000 square feet of one type of interlocking. I think it was like Oaks Colonnade or something as a backlog. Like that's crazy. And you know, good luck getting that until, you know, 2021. So I think we're starting to see a lot of issues, even in the quarries, you know, when they didn't have labor. So we've been waiting all summer for crushed Halliburton and granite. You know, it's one of those products that we push over River Rock. It's cheaper than River Rock, and we actually charge a premium for it. So it's you know, it's a win-win. We literally got one load of it last week, and it was half dirt. We're literally washing it to get, you know, out of 24 tons, hopefully 15 tons of usable product. Now the labor cost on top of that is made it, now it's, you know, going to be double the price of River Rock for me, but I can't charge that. So I think you know, all those different you know, issues that are to do with the backlog and supply chain, we're still probably not seeing the full effect of, because a lot of people just happen to have lost supply of things early on. But you know, who knows over the next few months if that will continue. Any rumors on salt for any of the people involved in the snow and ice side of things? I don't see too many here, but I got some pricing today, and it looks like Goderich is open again, so we'll have Ontario salt for once. We've gotten used to the Egyptian and Moroccan stuff over the last couple of years, but our customers haven't. So having nice clean white salt, people appreciate that, and the pricing's gone down. We're you know, basically $20 less a yard than last year, so that will help, because the pricing went up to our customers last year, so now our margins are going to be a bit better, which is a nice little blessing in disguise there. Any other thoughts on kind of just efficiencies that you guys have found over the summer? Any
Question for you, John. Did all the suppliers like Arntz and everybody that bought all that salt last year, have they moved all of it?
I don't think so. I think we'll still, I was talking to Chris Arntz today, and he used the term spread. And by that he meant, you know, the salt that he bought at an inflated price, plus now the salt he's buying cheaper. He's trying to find that kind of sweet spot of what to sell per yard at all winter. That kind of helps him on the stuff that he had to import that he probably isn't going to be making too much money on, because by the time you paid for the ship to come across the ocean, by the time it landed in Quebec, got trucked to Ontario, or a smaller ship transferred to then come into the port of Whitby or Oshawa, or what was the one in St. Catharines, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, somewhere down there. I know they were shipping into, and so by the time you had all those extra costs involved, you know, even though it was a way cheaper product compared to buying a ton in Ontario, it ended up being a wash. So I think they still are holding on to some of that salt, because they might have bought 20,000 tons and only used 10 of it last year, because there was still other suppliers coming through last year. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening and what color the salt is when we go in get loaded up. You know, again, and if there's a second wave, you know, that 4-person shoveling crew might only be a 2-person shoveling crew. So I think there'll be a lot of things that come for the snow and ice guys over the next few months that will be a new world for us in many ways. At least with our balaclavas on, we won't have to worry about masks. But
That's what I was just going to ask Tony. Has the COVID task force been looking into the winter rules, regulations, and how they're going to handle things, or suggestions on how to handle?
Just in general. I mean, there are a number of snow and ice operators on that committee. So I mean, they've just been talking generally. So.
Yeah, it was a very interesting meeting the other day. So I talked about it with the Durham chapter quickly, but you know, there was one chapter that was trying to have a Landscape Ontario sanctioned event, a golf tournament. And so I was telling the task force about, you know, what your comments were, Janice, about the golf tournament. You had been on that, had gone well, and I think Cassandra, you mentioned the Ajax Board of Trade one as well. But you know, it's a lot of those kind of questions are going to come up over the next few months about events and you know, what to do. And Landscape Ontario has strongly made a statement that there will not be any Landscape Ontario sanctioned person-to-person events for at least the next, what was it, Tony, 60 days?
Yeah, it'll be reviewed every 30 days.
Every 30 days, yeah. So like I joked with you at the beginning, seeing all your faces on the screen will be the new norm for some time. And I do hope that you know, we can definitely get a lot out of these meetings, and we can still make them you know, fun and exciting as much as they can be. No delicious wings or food.
No.
Janice, but
you couldn't deliver.
I could. I could get little charcuterie boxes delivered to everybody.
There's an idea. That might get people to come to the meeting.
Yeah,
you have to.
You're gonna knock on your door at 7:30.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Has there been any concrete decisions about Congress?
Yes, I can comment on that. Physical Congress has been officially canceled. So the Congress committee met last week. I think Tony and Joe were in that call too, and yeah, it was a little bittersweet because it's a bit of a tight crew that sits on that committee. But I think given the climate, given what our industry is trying to promote as we try and move into for all you silly folks who deal with snow and ice, well, silly or
insane folks,
necessary part of your business while I'm sleeping when I'm done. As we try to promote sort of the right way of doing business, at least in this COVID era, it doesn't make sense to try and ask tens of thousands of people to congregate in one place, regardless of what measures could have been put in place. So as I understand, options for a digital format are being examined. It will likely not be in the same format as the Snowposium, which I'm almost disappointed I didn't attend just to see what didn't work. Well, but I mean, there's value in knowing what works and what doesn't work, right? So, so it was whatever. I'll
If
learn.
it makes you feel better, Chris, it was my session that it crashed on.
Oh, really?
It was John's fault.
You know what? That does kind of make me feel better. Yeah.
The computer saw my face and it just went.
Oh, this guy
Warm
again.
it up.
Yeah. Oh,
There
boy.
is a trade show in Quebec that Harry goes to in November, I think it is. And I think they're going to try and do it like a hybrid, digital / so many people in person, but it is Quebec. So
I don't know how they can.
50%
if
COVID
you look
come
at
back.
things a
I'm
little
not
bit
sure.
different than we do.
Yeah, Janice, I'm not sure how they can pull that off. I mean, you can only have 50 people
Yeah,
in
that's
a
how they were
room.
selling it to us.
Yeah,
And
that's going to
seeing
be
as we
pretty
don't,
interesting.
yeah, seeing as we don't have anyone on staff that really speaks French, so we opted out because
Right.
if somebody clicked on our booth and, you know, what are we gonna speak about? So.
Tree.
But, I just want to add to Chris's. I mean, formally, we're not going to announce until the board actually approves. So the way it works, it's
sorry, our recommendation.
Confidential, Chris.
Committees. Well, it's not confidential. It's just
No.
there's formalities. So the committees recommend to the board, and then the board's going to vote on it. But the reality, the decision's been made by government, not us. You know, you just can't have it. Period. So we are going virtual, and there's a lot of benefits to going virtual, and we have landed on a platform, and you know, we learned a lot with the Snowposiums. So, and that's what that was all about. Let's learn. So
yeah.
I'm assuming the landscape designer conference, like, do you consider that part of Congress,
yeah,
or is
that's
it?
going on for sure.
Yep.
The designers
Still
conference
Most
is going.
important part.
Yeah, the educational events are a lot easier, right? In fact, they're you can argue that they're way more accessible if you do them by Zoom, and so it's not even an argument. They are way more accessible
Yeah,
if you
sure.
do them by Zoom.
Okay.
And so that's actually going to be the key to doing all this stuff is trying to mix in the exhibitors with the education piece where they sponsor the talks, as well as a segment where you try to engage people with the products and services, you know, maybe through themes like new products or that sort of thing. So we're trying to work it all out. We also know it's really hard for people to stay in front of their computers for 8 hours. You know?
I can barely do it for an hour or
That's
something.
Everyone starts kind of getting fidgety.
That
and-
is the
I
last
know.
15
I'm
That's
like,
right.
oh my
Well,
gosh.
You just turn the video off and you can move around. Tony,
Yeah.
are they doing, is the education section that we normally do at Milton all
Yeah.
winter going to be online as well?
Yeah, well, that's Joe. Joe
Yeah,
can answer that.
we're going to do a hybrid. So because we're able to have some people in our building, we're going to run about 80 workshops over the winter. So, you know, with the beautiful facility that we have in Milton, we're able to do that and still, you know, follow all the necessary protocols that we need to. But in addition to all of the in-person workshops, we're also going to have a virtual education series.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, and I think it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years when COVID is hopefully a distant memory. You know, like Tony said, you know, all of a sudden you can have 1,000 people at a really popular seminar, whereas before, you know, fire capacity might have been 100, and you had a lot of unhappy people that weren't able to make it to those events. So, you know, there might be a lot of you know, future positives from COVID of a new way of doing business and a new way of using technology. And you know, you look at it right now, like 5 years ago, there were probably 5 companies that did online, you know, learning and seminars. You know, now you hear of a new company popping up every week as people invest in the technologies and are looking at different ways. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But hopefully, you know, those of you that joined us tonight had a nice evening. If there's anything else anyone wants to bring up, now is definitely a time, but in the interest of Joanne's comment, which I agree with
No,
completely,
no.
no, it's good to keep these to around an hour, because I'm the same. I have a little tiny laptop, so I'm like hunched down, and it's and you're always insecure. You gotta, like, am I centered? Am I?
I'm like looking at my second screen, giving it away. Yeah, no.
Is there any suggestions on a topic you'd like our next meeting to be about that might draw people to it?
Yeah, so can Joe and I have just a couple of minutes? Okay.
Of course.
So,
Please do.
Joe's got what I think is a brilliant idea on how to do chapter meetings. So Joe, do you want to talk about your idea?
Yeah, sure. So, we've had a couple of meetings with different chapters now. And when we ask about the different topics that they'd like to cover as part of their chapter meetings, there's a lot of themes that are overlapping, whether it be business related or, material sourcing related, labor, a lot of those kinds of things. So I thought, well, because of Zoom, why don't we have like a couple of speakers at the beginning where we invite the entire membership. And then because Zoom has this feature called breakout rooms, why not? So after the speakers are done, we'll create breakout rooms, and each breakout room can be a chapter. And then everyone picks their chapter to go into, and we can have a meeting like this where it's chapter specific. So we've got a couple of speakers lined up for November. Still working out details, of course, but that's definitely a concept that offers a lot of efficiency, but gives every chapter the ability to have their own meeting at the same time.
This is almost something like Mark has talked
I was
about
gonna joke,
for years.
Mark's been talking
Yeah, I
about it
can
for
hear
50
it.
years.
I can hear it echoing in my head.
Mark leaves and COVID starts, so we can do it.
But we don't have to give any credit to Mark, because Joe and Mark didn't have any
No,
interaction.
they didn't.
That's it.
COVID is the reason.
Right. Yeah.
I can see a beautiful thing about that is that Landscape Ontario has one meeting a month at a given night and time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so
That's
Joe,
fabulous.
this was something over the last years that Mark Humphreys, who was very involved with the Durham chapter, was always talking about it. And because it was Mark Humphreys, it kind of fell on.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Be
I
nice,
don't know if
Mark.
any of you are really good friends with Mark Humphreys or not, but anyway, so yeah, no, I personally think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Yeah, I do too.
Good.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Run with it, Joe.
So,
Perfect.
and then all of a sudden, like, you have, look, we have 16 people right now. I can't
Mhm.
count.
Yep, you're right.
16 people. Like, if all of a sudden we had 100 people with all the chapters together, and then did our breakouts to the Durham specific and the Upper Canada specific, I'm all on board for that. And I think if we do it right and keep that speaker to 45 minutes and do 45 minutes as our chapter,
Yep.
I think you get a lot of engagement, and it would work quite well.
And the nice thing too is the speakers can be like world class.
Yep.
Like, they can
From
be anywhere, right?
From
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can need them. Like, we can hire
That's right.
speakers, because it's now, it's not that Durham's hiring them for $1,000. It's so
Yeah.
hey, Mark, nice to see you finally.
The other item is tomorrow. We're having a town hall at 6. Joe's hosting it
At 4:30.
at 4:30.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. And the speaker is Warren Coughlin. Warren Coughlin is to me, he's kind of like the business coach's business coach.
Yeah.
Like, the guy is really sharp, and he's going to basically it'll be interactive. Joe, maybe you can.
Yeah.
talk
So
about it. Okay.
the whole idea is around, sales right now within the industry. I mean, everybody's talking about being booked into 2021, and if you do pools, you're probably booked into 2022. But what happens when that ride is over? And his without giving away too much, his theme is all about smooth seas make bad sailors, right? Because it's the challenge that you learn from. And so we've had a couple of pretty long chats, and got to know each other really well over the last 2 weeks. And he's really talking about planning for the future, building cash flow systems so they're not just good for today in the current climate, but will weather the storm moving forward. So we've got some really tough questions ready for the panel, and tough questions for the audience too. So it's going to be very interactive.
Yeah, so make some time tomorrow at 4:30. You'll really benefit from it. It's free.
Yeah.
And at tomorrow's e-news will have the link. I mean, it's been sent out a couple of times already. It's on social media, but just grab that link and see it 4:30.
Is there any way that it can be recorded?
Yeah, they're all
it is.
recorded.
The website?
Yeah.
So that who cannot, like me, who cannot
Yeah.
get there at 4:30?
Absolutely.
Later?
Yeah,
Definitely.
it will be recorded.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I noticed this is being recorded.
Yeah,
it sure is. Yeah. So we'll do the same moving forward.
Yeah, so every meeting will be recorded going forward and then put on the website?
Yep.
Archive it.
Perfect.
So Joe, on the note of you've now been a part of a couple of other chapter meetings. How did they go? What was the turnout? I think I'm a very insecure person at heart. So I compare Durham to other chapters.
Yeah. So the other chapter meetings that we've been involved with have been chapter board meetings. The Durham chapter is the very first chapter to have an all chapter virtual meeting.
Where's our speaker?
There you go.
You definitely get the gold star for being the first.
That's it.
Somebody's got to be the guinea pig.
Right.
So yeah, no, and so do you think there's any hope that we could set up the whole chapter meetings at the same night in October, or it won't happen until November?
I'm not exactly sure. The two speakers that I'm starting to line up, their availability is kind of early November, and they're world class. So if that's a date that we can work with, then we'll work towards that. Otherwise, I can see if I can twist their rubber arm to move it to October.
What do you think, Carol?
I think November's fine, because if we have good weather between now and then, you're not going to get the people out. They're trying with this year. They've got the product in. They're trying to get things done. They want to. I've always found September, October meetings were normally slow because people want to work because they can till 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, agreed.
And
it gets
aren't all the
dark
products
quickly.
arriving in October? Like, we have no product right now, but everything's supposed to be in stock in October. The poor customers choosing their third choice, and
Right.
we're, so.
For sure. Lots of fun. No, I was literally in someone's backyard with my phone shining on a garden at 8 o'clock last night because the guys were planting this morning, and yeah, that's fall is here. The leaves are changing. The burning bushes are going red, but beautiful. Okay, guys, I think that was a good first guinea pig, and I really appreciate all of the non-exec people coming out and hopefully get good out of this. And let's keep this trend going, and hopefully we'll have a bigger turnout next time. And
no, that's good. I'm looking forward to November. I think that's just fabulous idea.
yeah, makes so much sense. But no one tell Mark.
No one tell
Now.
I'm going to email him right now.
Thank you very much for attending. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
where's the door prizes there, Norm?
I've got him
Oh,
in
no,
safekeeping.
50-50.
Pardon?
We didn't get paid to come. No 50-50.
No 50-50.
And there's no reason you can't do a 50-50. The Blue Jays are doing it.
Yeah,
Look at how they're playing. By the way, just
Good night, everyone.
if it's of any interest, I attended 2 Zoom meetings 2 weeks ago. Each one had over 650 participants.
Wow.
And it was a record for a Zoom meeting. It was 2 days back to back. It was an aviation safety thing. And it's exactly the same thing that we've talked about, is that if it's got anything to do with compliance, we can fill the house. And if it's purely public interest, we basically are talking to ourselves. This was all about compliance. and there was, up until that time, the biggest flesh and blood meeting was something like 120 people, and we had 600 people at 2 nights back to back.
Wow.
So this was the aviation business?
Pardon?
Aviation?
Aviation, airplanes, yeah.
Okay,
Pilot safety training.
right.
And it was free. It was an hour and a half each, hour and 15 minutes each time. And basically what they did is that if you had comments or questions, they put you to a chat room, and then they had one monitor at the chat room. So you didn't have what we have here now. We have 16 people, all who have the opportunity to talk at the same time. Here you couldn't do it with that many people. So basically it was filtered through a chat room, and then they were, questions and comments were forwarded to the speakers. And anything that didn't get looked after in that allotted period of time was personally answered by email after the fact.
Wow.
And they
Good model.
considered it
To
a
learn
wrap.
from it.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take care.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Joey.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
Good to take care.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Carol.